Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ryan Profit back here with you with Joel Verinder, and we're here to talk. We're doing a three-piece segment on STR stuff, and today we're going to be talking about pricing a little bit, and we're going to try not to get to rambling too bad because this is something we're pretty passionate about, and so I'll leave that to Joel. What's been going on for you since we last talked, bud?
Man, we are in the middle of Christmas season, and it is a busy time for these short-term rentals. So, this is perfect timing to talk about pricing because, in the Smokies, where almost all of mine are anyways, you've got your peak season is right now as you're hitting Christmas, New Year's, and then you have January that follows it right after, which is like
Absolutely.
non-peak season, So it's a compare and contrast, and both of these months have severely different strategies, and so I think it's a good timing for today for sure.
Absolutely, man. So anything new around the home front, or you just been thinking STRs all week?
So, earlier this week, I was going to talk to my wife, and I usually when I start the conversation is like, hey, I just want to run something by you, but don't freak out. Like she usually freaks out. And so I was like, hey, I was checking around on some deals, and there are a ton of places on inventory right now, like in the Smokies and Gulf Shores, and there are some deals I think that are out there that are like really worth considering. And some of these are kind of dogs, right, in the market, right, where they have been just neglected for years, and in this market where money is so expensive anyways, and now there's so much inventory, that stuff's just getting looked over. I really think there's some opportunity. So I was bringing her an opportunity, like, hey, what do you think about this one? And her first reaction was like, oh my gosh, can you stop like bringing up houses already? But it's funny because then I think a day later I got this text, like she was in the doctor's office, like waiting, and she sent me a text like, tell me more about that house you were looking at. And I was like, yes. So yeah, that's my life, man.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I just stop and look at a house and I'm driving by like, wonder if that's for sale. Maybe it is the day.
What about you? What are you guys been up to?
Man, here at home, just getting ready for Christmas. I haven't started any Christmas shopping at all, which is pretty typical. And I've been having my wife keep telling me, give me what you want. Give me a list. And I haven't provided such a list. So everything that I'm getting is definitely going to come locally because I never give her any ideas. But I'm selling a house. I'm working on one, and I'm actually trying to buy one it's pretty tricky. And, maybe sometime we can talk about it because it's been a first for me. But we're just rolling, keep rolling. And that's what we're doing, bud. And as far as the topic today, pricing, I remember when I first started, we threw some pricing in there. We didn't have any pricing software. I didn't do anything crazy. I just set a bunch of manual rates, and I loved it because it just booked. But then after a while, like a lot of us, like you, I'm sure you realize too, is I wonder if I should do something different because it's not greed, but I'm like, should I be making more now to get ready for the slow season? So if I don't get as many bookings, so what do you think about that? Do you think somebody just jumping in should be snagging pricing software, or do you think they should just be using the platform at first? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I've got a lot of thoughts on this topic as you do, and we're both, I think, super passionate about pricing. As you know, you can have two short-term rentals right next door to each other, and they're identical, but they can make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 difference in gross just on how you operate and how you price. So a great example, I think, was our first place that we bought. It was just this little 1-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 1,000 square foot. It was owned by an individual who was using a property management company local in the Smokies. And he was super excited that for the past 12 months, they had grossed $36,000 on this 1.5. And, it put it in the listing. It was like, hey, this is a moneymaker and cash flow is king and all this good stuff. And I was, for me, I didn't have, this was our first short-term rental. It was $36K. And I was like, that's not bad. That's still a decent cash flow return. But again, they were just using static pricing, right? And so he had weekdays on this place was like 165, and weekends I think were like 195. And this is just year round, just blanket. Like I guess he had some sort of rule. The weekday is this, weekend is this, and it didn't matter if it was Christmas, didn't matter if it was January. But that's what he did. And and as we were kind of getting through this, that was my first point. I was like, why aren't we, going that route? How could Christmas be the same price as January or whatever? So, yeah, I'm a big proponent of going with a pricing solution right away. Some people will say, well, hey, it costs $40 a month or $30 a month, whatever it is. Like, no way I'm spending that much. I could just sit in there and do it myself. All you need is one booking that drives up that price to pay for it. Totally worth it. And so off of that one, I think where he may have been done 36,000 a year on that place, I think the lowest year that we've had on that cabin is somewhere around 77,000. And
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not because I'm amazing or I know what I'm just learning like the next guy. It's because I'm putting the hands into like these pricing software solutions that know demand. They know that Christmas is going to be 99% booked in the Smokies. So raise your prices, right? Like higher than you would ever imagine. How many times, Ryan, have you booked something where like, man, I can't believe they just paid that. There's no way like I would ever pay that, right?
Yeah, I can't afford to stay there, man. So I know exactly what you're talking about because one of mine is, both of mine are in neighborhoods, but one of them, they're all different houses. But one of mine is in a neighborhood with a HOA. The front doors all have to be the same. They all have to look the same. The insides pretty much all look the same. And I just recently changed mine up, but even for the first 2 years, I would look at the other prices and I'd say, well, I'm going to try to set mine higher. And you would think that, and people don't believe you. Maybe one guy in the summer, he might put his at 190 all year long through the summer.
Yeah.
And I might have days where I'm getting maybe 600. And people think there's no way you can do it, but you can, because it all depends on when people book. If you have it priced low, people are going to book sooner. Okay. That reduces stress for some, but I'm okay with handling the stress of waiting till closer because I've had the experience now that I know if it's sitting empty, I do know if I drop my price to the right level, it will book maybe even the same day. So I think it's very important to know that we always hear about limited mindset. You got to have that around pricing too. You got to think, okay, maybe somebody will pay this. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, I'm afraid to price it too high because they might ding me on value. And I'm like, we all want somebody to have a great vacation. But if I do have to take a small hit on value, I'm okay with it because I'm trying to make revenue to prepare for the future, whether that be a tough economy, a tough market. Maybe it's right now. Christmas, as you said, is peak. Christmas, New Year's in the Smokies. As we know, January is slow. So I'm going to make what I can make during peak, obviously, when occupancy is higher. So you can afford to go lower when occupancy is low. Maybe you'll go lower than the guy who's at 190 all year, and you'll still capitalize and make more money overall.
Yeah. So in that example, if you're getting a crazy rate for Christmas and you're worried about getting a 4-star in the value category for Airbnb, one way you can combat that is with all those extra dollars that you're getting for that rate, just spend a little bit on it and have a welcome basket for them. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like Bill Faith says, right? One of these +1 things that they're not expecting, you don't advertise, they don't know about. So have that sitting for them. And that helps. It helps combat that right away.
Yeah. Cause they're like, dang, this is so expensive. And then they walk in and see this basket. Oh, this is why it's expensive. They go a little further than the competitors to make this place nicer, something like that. I like it.
So, how do you see the difference? Because we're in two different markets. We're in primarily the beach and the mountains. I guess for this conversation, I really won't talk about our place in Dallas, Fort Worth. But how do you see how you approach pricing? Let's just start with the beach. It's very
Sure.
different than the mountains, and
Sure.
I guess I'll start off saying that neither one of us are experts with pricing in the beach.
No, not even close.
Right? We are 100% learning on the job and
Yes.
from other people that we're surrounded with in our network. Both of us went live earlier this summer, right?
Yes.
So I think I went live end of May. You went live in June. It was a
Yes.
weird year at the beach, but man, do we have some good lessons, right? So
Absolutely.
how do you? Let's talk about the beach real quick. What are your takeaways, I guess, for the 6 months, I guess, that you've been live and how you've been pricing it out so far?
Yeah. So some things I've learned is the beach, you know, is one, if you go live in peak, I went live June 15th and you can get June 15th through the end of July, maybe August 5th. You can get it booked up solid on the fly because I did it. And it was stressful, but I did it. But what I would say is, and there's another cat I know, Doug. He went live about the same time, and his property is a little different than ours. His is a little better on the beach view, closer to the beach. But he was like, he was smarter in the fact of once it began to be off peak, he could see that, and he priced lower. He was well lower than me for August, and he booked up like 80% like in 3 days. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna hold out. Well, what I learned in the beach, man, do not hold out for off season. I would set low, and if it starts booking up, adjust. One mistake I made is I'm used to Christmas and New Year's in the Smokies, man, and it's high and it's on like Donkey Kong is what I always say. I call it flossing season, like from the rap songs. But anyway, so I was like, I better price the beach for flossing season in December. And I had a gal send me an inquiry, and she's like, oh hey. And I saw the rate she's paying. I go, oh man, I'm going to give this thing away. I got to price this higher to survive the off season. And I went and adjusted it. And then of course she didn't book it. And man, I'm sitting empty right now for Christmas and New Year's. And I'm a lot lower price than I was. So what I would say is for peak, price for peak. But when it's off season, you need to be realistic and adjust your prices. And then if you can in the winter, get some of those snowbirds, man. I see the importance of snowbirds now, and I'm feeling it pretty hardcore. I'm ready for March and April at the beach.
One difference for me on how these markets have priced is in the Smokies. I've always been in the mindset where I just want to be at the max, like six weeks, maybe 8 max, right? Like a booking window. Not that I don't open my calendar up. My calendar's open for 12 months, but my pricing definitely, it keeps people from booking further out. It's just so expensive. I'm not competitive, right? Mainly because over the past 2 years in the Smokies, I don't need to book 6-9 months out, right? I'm going to be 70% occupied, 70% occupancy, with a 6 to 8 week window, getting the maximum pricing, right? Because all those cheap places are booking for Christmas and 2023 right now, right? That's not me, right? I'm gonna be in the 90th percentile because I know the trends and how to work. So with the beach, though, it's very different. We haven't lived this yet. I think we're about to. As I hear Christmas is coming up, is kind of like the kickoff for summer bookings, right? So just being through it last year, I think right now that's my struggle. It's what do I price June, July, our peak seasons at here in December? I don't want to discourage potential vacationers, right, from planning ahead at the beach because that's a different market. It's more how booking flows here. And so I think that's a very different strategy, I think, than one that we have adopted and the Smokies will have to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. And that's how I feel too. I'm okay with last minute bookings in the mountains, but And even if the beach is still a drive-in market for the most part, but I do think I want to price it out further too, because coming out of this off season, I think even mentally I'm going to feel better having some bookings start flowing in December, January, even if they're down the road. That'll just help me, with proof of concept. But I will say that one thing we're going to have to watch out for, and any of you guys in Gulf Shores already probably know this, they're temporarily building on to the airport. It's a temporary structure, but a temporary permanent. Anyway, the point is bigger airlines are going to start coming in. And so the hope is we're going to get out of towners. And I'm going to be interested to keep an eye on how we need to watch our pricing for the possible out of towners flying in.
Yeah, I was super excited about that airport. I can't wait for them to start getting commercial flights in. I think that's really going to open it up for Gulf Shores for sure. Hey, how do you use, I know you use seasonal pricing
right
within Price Labs, or both Price Labs users, but how do you use that for the beach?
So for the beach, and which has been slow going just because I feel like once you have a property a whole year, anywhere you're at, I feel it's way easier. You can just see the seasons, and you can almost, without asking anybody, you can almost set them up yourself. But the thing I like about seasonal prices is I can go in, I can have my peak set for June, July. I can set a higher base rate, or I can keep my base rate the same, but my minimum will also obviously be way higher. The reason I like those is because the way I was doing it in the beginning, a lot of us with Price Labs, you set your base price and then you're looking at your booking window. Okay. So if you're right now, if you were trying to get bookings for December, January, February when it's slow, well, what are you going to do? You can put a cap on your uppermost rate. You can lower your minimum, but what you're going to do is, and what you're going to have to do, well, you could also manually set your price if you want in Price Labs. But what a lot of us are going to do, we're going to go in and adjust our base rate. If you don't have seasonal profile set up, you're going to adjust your base rate down for now. And then now it's going to make your prices in the future lower still. Now, it's not going to take them all the way down, because luckily Price Labs is looking out for you, kind of watching your back, but it's still maybe lower than you want it in the future. And so with seasonal, and now especially since they have seasonal minimum stay profiles, which is great. Yeah. That's always what I wanted. Now you can put those in. So if you're at the beach, you can go in for June, July, and maybe set 4, 5, 7 if you're so inclined. Whereas for January and February, maybe you put 2. You could go 1, but definitely 2. Lower your price down under that season, and now hopefully maybe in summer you can even start picking up some slow season bookings. And I think I think it's really kind of a game changer, having the seasonal profiles with Price Labs.
Yeah, no, I know there are many ways to use Price Labs, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's a very complex piece of software.
Yes,
but that has definitely been a tool for us as a seasonal profiles for sure.
Now, besides Price Labs and seasonal adjustments in there, are you using the platforms at all? Any of the tools that they offer to adjust pricing as well?
Yeah. So one of the big things that we use within like Airbnb, we use their rule sets a lot, especially I would say in the shoulder season, or maybe a little bit slower times. Times that we aren't necessarily booking up weekdays as fast as we want. There's some rule sets that you can go within your calendar within Airbnb directly, and you can highlight days that you want the rule sets to apply to. You can say, hey, I don't want check-ins on this day or no checkouts on that day, which is actually very helpful for like Christmas. If you don't want your cleaners to work on Christmas Day, which they will hate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
New down that road. Or whatever situation your cleaner has. But there are a lot of great YouTube videos. I think Ryan, you pointed me to a couple of these earlier in the year that were pretty awesome around these strategies to, hey, we all know that for a large part, we're going to book up weekends, even in the off season, like in the Smokies, we're gonna book most weekends. But how do you drive the weekday bookings? How do you stand out from your competition to get those weekdays? And so you can really set these rule sets to run, like, for example, like on Sunday night through like Wednesday night, for example, where you can say, hey, for a 3-night stay, let's, do 10% off, or a 4-night stay, let's do a 15% off. If I actually, the way I have it set up is where I say, if you have a 2-night stay, it's actually going to raise 5%, and a 3-night stay decreases 10, and a 4-night stay decreases 15. And one of the things I think that does for you is whenever you're displayed within Airbnb, it shows your price as, like, if you're searching with those dates, it shows as a discount. So it kind of has that little slash through your price. People feel like, oh, we're getting a great deal, or it's on sale. I know it makes me feel that way when I'm on vacation or searching. Ooh, it's on sale.
Yeah, man. Just like the butcher shop, right? You got to buy it today at a super sale, but you better cook it today because it won't last.
Now, I don't use that for peak season. Like, you're not going to find that in, New Year's, Christmas. You're not going to find that on my listings in the summer because they're going to book, right? Because
they're going to book.
Largely the booking season follows a school calendar, right? Yes. And so when these kiddos go back to school, Christmas vacation's over, that's when a lot of these places, weekends or weekdays, can dry up, right? And so it's there's still a lot of vacationers that go, but relative to the number of places that are to rent, it's a great way to stand out.
Yeah, so I'm actually experimenting with the rule set right now. I was watching some of those videos that we were talking about, and it was telling me that single night stays rank higher, and even if you don't book them, it ranks you higher. And I've got one place that I'm trying to get to rank up a little bit better, and so I went in with the rule set, and I actually set up single night stays, in Airbnb or on Price Labs, and then what I did was I made a rule set and I marked up 1-night stays 100%. Then I marked down 3-night stays 50% of that, and then so on and so forth. And I'm trying to get it to raise me up in the rankings and still, hopefully get some 3-day bookings. I don't know if it's working yet, but it's just, I get kind of mad scientist sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes if you try everything, somebody will just book your place, so.
No, I mean, that's a lot of this whole strategy. It's how do you make a difference, right? You want to stand out. You want to be able to book dates before other people do, or you want to book days at the highest possible price when occupancy is at a premium, So this is very much a feeling. I think it's a combination of, like your feeling and data kind of come together. One thing, just if we could shift over to the Smokies real quick.
Sure.
Here's a quick tip, I guess, right, for Christmas and New Year's, right? And it's we're recording this here in middle of December, and so it might be a little late for some of you. But one of the things that I know Ryan and I we follow the same process here is basically for all our places, we will block the Christmas week and New Year's week. If we just don't allow inquiries, we don't allow bookings like all year, right? Until sometime in November. Now, that I will say that kind of changes sometimes because depending on the state of the market and the economy and how nervous we are.
Yes.
Now that I've got 9, like some of them I might free up earlier than later.
Yes.
But the thought is it's to don't give those away. We've now, at least I've been in the Smokies market for 3 Christmases now. And in 2020 is when we started. And of course, you guys all know that was a crazy year. 21 was a crazy year. Although we saw a little bit softer on the Christmas week on 21 than we did in 2020. 2020, everything was booked from the 10th of December to the 31st, so basically whatever you wanted. And then the 21st, it was still that way for New Year's week. Christmas still booked, but it was not as in demand as New Year's. It was a little softer. So if you held at the extreme prices, you found yourself adjusting as you got closer. This year, I think it follows pretty close to 2021. Christmas is still not as strong as New Year's, but it still books pretty well. But the point is to block these dates and start creating a log for yourself. Like you can use Price Labs, you can use other pricing tools to start looking at like what is the occupancy for your neighborhood, and just doing incognito searches and figuring out how many are in the search. It's helpful to know where you rank and where you sit, but to understand your market and your inventory and what's out there, and then be able to track. Like I started that just this year. I've got a spreadsheet where I'm tracking like every Monday. I'll run the same search for New Year's week, and I'm tracking to see how many get booked right in my search. And it's a pretty vague search. It's just these dates in the Smokies, sleeps this many people, and I pick house. That's all I pick, right? So it's not super host, it's not hot tub, it's not any of this stuff.
So you're more sophisticated than me, but right here.
There you go.
So if you can see, we're down for Christmas, depending on one, and New Year's, we're getting down into the double digits. And I'm talking like 51 on one, 34 left available. Okay. So that's how close, because it's worth noting that, like you said, like depends how nervous you are. Well, I've got multiples and I've got a beach property now, which obviously, as you know, doesn't get a lot of bookings right now. So I might price a couple dates a little lower. Once I get those bookings, I have my confidence built up. Now I can hold out for what's left. Yeah. And an important lesson, like you mentioned, is for the Smokies, is for Christmas being a little softer. People have really, and it's a learning year. If it's somebody's first year, they learned. What they did is they may have priced New Year 26th and later a little too low and booked it up maybe a month or two ago. Now they're trying to raise their Christmas prices and hold out, but it might not work for them because it's going to be softer. And your Christmas price, as you noted, is probably going to be lower. So, yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, everything you're saying, man, I experienced the same thing. It was like 2020, gangbusters, 21. We formed the holiday accountability group where we wouldn't allow each other to book too low, or we wouldn't lower prices without talking to each other. So,
that's hilarious. You bring that up. Yeah, I remember that. Both of us, I think, we were so spoiled, right, by these 2020 prices, and 2021 was a great year. But I think we had this accountability group where Ryan and I were texting every other day or something like that. Like, man, hold strong. Don't release your dates yet.
Need somebody to kind of slap you around. Don't lower your price.
Don't do it. And I think we're both grateful because I know in the Smokies, at least for me anyways, December is in the top 3 months of the year as far as growth, right? Yes. And so usually July is number 1 for me, and October and December are right there in 2 and 3, and June is number 4. So it's not something to mess around with. I mean, it is a key piece of your revenue for the year. So
it's the Super Bowl. I call it the Super Bowl. I tell people, I'm like, Thanksgiving's hot, Christmas and New Year's is hotter. Do not give your property away. You're going to be wishing you didn't when it comes January,
Well, Brian, we're about 28 minutes into this thing, and I know there are a couple of topics we got left. Like as I mentioned, we're so passionate about pricing that we can just keep going and going. But I thought we would take a minute. Like, we want to leave, I guess, this podcast or YouTube video with a good challenge. We want folks to really kind of take away something. And what do you think we should go with this year or this episode?
I think, build some sort of revenue strategy. Take the time, look at the platforms. If you use Price Labs, look, even as simple as, man, just go run your calendar out a couple months. Look at the light green, the blue, the dark blue. The colors are there for a reason. Look at that. If you don't have seasonal profiles, maybe look into just making a couple seasons, and trying it out, but just come up with a revenue plan. And whatever your number is that you're trying to make, if you don't know that number, come up with a number, but have a plan of how much you're trying to make and how the highway you're going to take to get there, basically.
Yeah, I totally agree. Have a plan. Know what you're doing. Let's be very purposeful about it. It's the lifeblood, right, of why you're doing this for cash flow. And I've heard a lot of people talk in different Facebook groups about, hey, I don't want to charge this much, right? I don't want a family to have to spend that much on vacation. Maybe that's your strategy, but that's not mine, right? Like my goal for this business, right, is cash flow. I've put a ton of work into this thing, heart and soul, and it's not a charity.
No, so, it's a lot of work, and you got to be compensated for it, or it's not worth the time and that it takes to do this business. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you would hate to go through all this effort to set this up, to get your decor perfect, build your team, and then get really relaxed on your pricing. So be purposeful about it. Don't be afraid to invest in a pricing software. It'll get its money back for sure. So, but hey, Ryan, hey man, have a great week. We don't talk to you before. Merry Christmas. And we've got another video coming up here. We're really going to be talking about buying and selling of short-term rentals. And I think we've got a lot of great topics we're going to get into. We can talk 1031s. We can talk when to look at buying and selling. How do you analyze a property in that buy process? So excited about that. So come back and join us next time.
All right. See you guys. Take care.
All right. See ya. Bye.